Hi, everyone, and welcome back. And during the break, I was talking to Chuck Iley, who's my guest today. He's the CAO of Amador County, and talks to the Board of Supervisors and gives them advice on some things. And, and Chuck, I was saying, what, that sounds kind of pretty good. They can cut some money, and when they cut money, where does it go?
Well, it'll go into the general fund, and it will offset any deficits that would be arising, and that would be the emergency that would need to arise. It would be a deficit that the governor saw, and the legislature is not taking action, so the governor is going to cut the budget. If the budget is balanced and everything's been passed, then I wouldn't see that the governor would be able to use this power. Okay,
so basically you'd say, like, if it's you could cut some program, and then it would go to offset some deficit costs. I'm not sure how you offset deficit costs, to tell you the truth, in government, other than maybe not spend. And I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure where it says that in this bill. Do you see where it's there, other than implied?
It's not real clear, other than to say that it's got to be a fiscal emergency. So you could assume that if we've got a balanced budget and the funding is arriving as it was planned, then there would be no emergency. So then this power couldn't.
Well, I guess if we had a system where we actually, when we cut deficit, there was like, it was like a bill that I owed, I don't know how to put it, like the bank had a note, and I would say, okay, here it is, and it goes right into the bank, and to pay off whoever loaned us that money, or bonds, or however that goes. And believe me, that's too hard for me to follow. But if we knew that mechanism, and if that mechanism was clear, then you could say, well, anything that you're offsetting, you are cutting the deficit. But if it goes to the general fund or something like that, I'm not sure if I see any way where that money couldn't be spent for something else.
Right. Well, the governor can't use that power to increase any budget. He can only use it to cut a budget. So,
but possibly he could use that money cut from here to be spent for something that's not being cut, that is running at a deficit.
Right. Well, certainly.
So give you the power to pick and choose where the monies go.
Right. Well, the stretching of the power is something that we see frequently, unfortunately. And
okay. Requires performance reviews of all state programs. Now, that's something that, Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about early on. Review all the state programs. Has that ever been done? How would that be done?
As far as you put performance measures on everything, and that's a large administrative task, but it's something that I would expect any private company would have, and state companies or state.
Well, I know we surely have that here at Amador County, and I know that's tasked to you.
Yes, it is, and it's something we're working on is to have these performance measures, because those same requirements that this would bring on the state would bring to the locals, and it's something we're actually working on already. So that in and of itself isn't really a problem.
So would this not for us? Would this put people in place to do that, or are people already in place doing this?
This would it doesn't pay for anybody on our side to do it. It's something that I believe with the staff we've got currently budgeted that we can.
Okay, I'm sorry, I threw it your way, so you're looking at it like as if you're tasked with it. I'm sorry if I'm not clear. I was referring to the state.
Oh, okay.
The state has to look at.
I'm sure the state would come in and say, well, in order to create these measures, we're going to have to staff up, and whichever department it is going to have to hire accountants or managers or whoever it is. I don't know that that's actually the case, but on a state level, I would expect that it would be quite a task.
It would seem that the governor would have the power and the ability to look there, and this not being granted to the legislature.
Yeah, as far as the governor would have the power to create those measures.
Right. Okay. As we talk, it seems to me that a lot of the power is flowing to the governor through this bill.
It is. It gives him a lot of power to set those performance measures, to make the emergency cuts, and develops the two-year budget cycle.
Okay, let's requires performance goals in state and local budgets. Maybe we can get to that
okay. Yeah. Well, that's just the other side of the state program.
Right. And then we have requires the publication of all bills at least 3 days prior to the legislative vote.
That's one of those measures that's intended to allow the public to absorb anything that's being proposed for the legislature to vote on. Like the budget. So they don't make all these changes, throw it out there, and vote on it before anybody can see it.
Good. I'm glad you put it that way, because it doesn't necessarily mean they'll read it, but it would give the public an opportunity to read it and point out things and to possibly pressure their legislators.
And let their voices be heard.
Now, allows local governments to alter how laws governing state-funded programs apply to them unless the legislator or state agency vetoes changes within 60 days. I guess that's the one that would apply to the local government here the most.
That is a big one, and it does give a lot of power to the locals to decide what rules, what state laws that they're going to adhere to. It does allow locals to come up with a functional alternative, functional equivalent. So you can't just say we're going to throw out the Clean Air Act, but it can say we're going to change the rules within, like not a federal law, but within the state law, say CEQA. You would be able to alter that with a functional equivalent. So however that shakes out, but the state legislature, if they disagree with your equivalent, could veto that.
What kind of programs would come under this? If you could have a few at the top of your head?
Everything. Well, everything from public safety and all of the requirements of the Mental Health Services Act or the overt social services. Those are all guided by heavy state rules and state laws. All those laws and rules and policies would be subject to be changed by the county if we chose to do it and meet the same intent of the law, but with different wording.
Now that seems to me to be, a kind of an area that would turn gray and therefore, be very litigious. One county saying, well, we have this program, another one doing this program. Of course, there is a little catchphrase in here that says, if the state agrees with you.
Right. That's always the issue, that we would be doing something very different than somebody else over in the Bay Area. Which would naturally.
Can you think of anything, off the top of your hat, like that would seem like maybe we could do something different than another area, and be okayed?
I can't think of anything offhand that we would.
Okay, you probably haven't run any scenarios in your head yet.
That's something we haven't
Okay.
really thought.
Do you think a thing like the fire fee and where the monies are being spent through CDF would be an issue like that?
Well, that program's still being run by the state, so it's not that we are doing.
Okay, you're correct. All right. So this might be a good time too to even point out, like, the counties aren't like states to the federal government. The counties,
right.
The states, the counties didn't make California. California made the states. So we're in like an administrative arm for the state.
We are technically, yes. We are not properties of the state, but we are subdivisions of the state, political subdivisions. So, yes, they do have control over us that the feds don't have over states. So, as such, but we are still bound by state law. They'll let us change it.
Give us a list of programs, possibly, if you could. I know you didn't bring one. I didn't ask you, but of programs that we are running for the state now that are mandated.
All of the realignment programs have been realigned from state programs to give the counties control. So the AB 109 rules, that just the probation, the prisoners are being released. That's a big one that we just took over. All the social services are all from the state. All Mental Health Services Act all comes to the state. Behavioral health all comes to the state. All those functions are all realigned. We also serve to enact the environmental health laws. So we oversee restaurants, we oversee septic tanks and things like that, all on behalf of the state, but it's functioned at a local level.
I want to ask you, does this seem like, in a way, like it seems to me like we get a lot of laws now that come our way that are basically enacted and signed and they're put into law, and then they go to a bureaucrat somewhere or lots of bureaucrats some places, and then they fill it all in, and the law actually becomes the rules of how that law is interpreted and run. do we, in other words, like, do you think this is well thought through?
There are good
or is it
parts
just
to it
going to be written after somebody would vote for it?
Yeah, it's got some very good points to it. I'm afraid that the devil's in the details, as always.
And there are seemingly no details.
That's a problem with.
And if anybody's ever tried to come up with a contract, the details really kind of make and break deals, and are as you might think everything's squared away, but it's in that detail where you say, "Oh yeah, what about that, and what about this, and what about that?"
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not clear, once again, it's kind of sold possibly on a grandiose idea that seems, like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So it is.
That's a good answer.
I agree with you, Tom.
Okay.
Okay. I guess just as an overview on the whole thing, it's got good and bad points, and we'll see
what
the board
seems to
has
be
think
a really good thing if maybe people in the county, might want to go on out and vote for this, and give them a reason why you think, from your limited knowledge right now. And I think maybe we'll hear more from supervisors, obviously, and that we'll get more information. I think this is the first time I've really even thought about this proposition.
It is, I would say, read it and look at each point and see what your thoughts are on it, because there are some good points. Obviously, the publication of bills at least 3 days prior to the vote by the legislature is something that's a good idea, and that was thrown in here because almost everybody.
And the legislature could enact that like tomorrow.
They could have done that without this, yes. But then there are others, and that may not be as good an idea. So,
okay, well, we have to leave, and boy, I sure hope you do read it and look into it, because, like I said, or I think it was pointed out, doesn't seem to be a whole lot of details. I'm Tom Slivick. Thanks for joining us on News In-Depth, and we'll see you again next time. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.